Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in 2015, the chairman and I actually co-sponsored legislation. It was Senate Bill 1 to approve the Keystone XL pipeline. It passed the Senate, passed the House. It was vetoed by President Obama. Had it not been, it would today be bringing 830,000 barrels a day from Canada to the United States, which obviously would be of great help. And the likelihood is it would have been expanded, and it would be probably well over 1 million barrels a day versus trying to get it from some adversary, be that somebody in OPEC or Venezuela or somewhere else. So how do we go forward now as partners? And I'm going to talk about another fantastic partnership we have, the Dakota Gasification Company in North Dakota. Takes lignite coal, converts it to synthetic natural gas, captures the CO2, and sends it to the Weyburn oil fields in Saskatchewan. And there it's put down hole for tertiary oil recovery. And that's been operating successfully for well over a decade. What a great partnership. How do we go forward, Premier, and build on these partnerships now? Looking, and I've given you an example of one that obviously should be in place, Keystone XL, and another one that is in place and operating very effectively, providing coal-fired, in this case, electricity, but also synthetic natural gas, and then also producing more oil through the tertiary oil recovery. Great partnership between our two nations. Together, we have incredible resources. How do we cut through some of these regulatory decisions that have impeded our ability to produce more energy with the greatest technology and the best environmental stewardship? How do we cut through and get that message to people in both countries so we can get more of these things done?
Thank you, Senator. Great question. I won't pretend that Canada or Alberta has an optimal system for regulation and regulatory certainty. To the contrary, we've had huge regulatory delays and uncertainty, particularly around pipelines. But with respect to production and permitting, that's primarily controlled by the provincial governments on oil and gas in Canada. And we have reduced by 20% the regulatory burden for permitting, and we've accelerated by about 60% the speed of permitting for a conventional oil and gas project. So I would just add, in Canada, one aspect of regulatory delays is often associated with the need of the government, the Crown, to consult adequately with Indigenous people, with what we call our First Nations. And a key part of that is involving them in a beneficial way in the industry, in resource development. I think we're developing a very good model in Alberta of Indigenous participation, including equity co-ownership of major resource projects, so that they feel fully like they're participants in resource development.
So what do you see in Canada today in terms of your resource development and working with the United States? Are you still committed to producing energy not only for your own country, but bringing it to the United States so that together, as North America, we are truly energy sufficient? Or are you dissuaded from doing that? What kind of things should we in Congress do to try to build that relationship and promote more partnering in energy development for the good of both nations?
Thank you, Senator. I think the predicate of your question is this concept of a North American Energy Alliance. And I think it's manifestly in the interests of both the American and the Canadian people to develop that policy framework. As I mentioned earlier, the administration regards the production of Canadian critical minerals as, for all intents and purposes, American critical minerals under the Title III of the Defense Production Act. I think a similar policy approach should be taken to Canadian oil and gas and other energy resources. For starters, stop efforts to shut down current infrastructure for Line 5 going through Michigan. Secondly, accelerate regulatory approval of pipeline optimization projects so that we can ship you more. Thirdly, let's work together to see, can we bring back something like another major pipeline between Alberta and the United States? It may require governments participating in de-risking that, because capital markets have been, the private sector has been spooked by that veto. And I don't think you're going to have a pipeline company coming to market with a $10 billion plus project with so much political and regulatory uncertainty. I think we as governments need to be more forward-leaning to de-risk projects like that.
Right, which takes both the provincial or the state government and our respective federal governments to work with us to do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate it very much. Mr. Chairman, thanks for holding.
Thank you, Senator.